Good morning. We will call the March 7th, 2023 City Council meeting to order. I'm going to ask Councilman Sam Turner to lead us in an invocation and pledge. If you would, please stand.
Pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the ability to assemble here today, to be able to call upon your name and ask for your wisdom and your guidance as we go about the business of the city. Lord, we know that everything that is on this earth is yours. We've only been given stewardship of it. We pray that the decisions that we make today are in keeping with your will, that we ask that you guide us, that you give us wisdom and knowledge and direction, that we be able to make wise decisions, that your name would be glorified on this earth. We ask that in Jesus Christ's name.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 3 is roll call. Marquise, you can see that all council members present with the exception of Councilman Cisco. And keeping me in your prayers, having some health issues this morning. Item 4 is approval of the minutes from the February 7th, 2023 City Council meeting. I think those minutes were emailed out to you all, so there's no additions or corrections. They'll stand approved as read. We have proclamations, recognitions. Ms. Simpson, are you ready, or you want to go in new business?
I'm ready.
Okay, all right. We have an annual report summary from our Jackson Downtown Development Corporation.
Thanks for letting me get situated. I'm Beth Ann Simpson, Director of Downtown Development. So thanks for letting me chat for a minute about kind of where we are. First, I just want to say thank you to the mayor and council for your support of JDDC. Without the financial contribution from the city and the support from your staff and the thoughtful partnership with the co, we would not be where we are. And so I appreciate your support. It's an important time to be a part of downtown. So you have the executive summary from the Main Street Annual Report in your packets, but I will highlight a few things that we've accomplished in the last 6 months and what you can expect from us in the coming months. So first and foremost, it was important for us to reestablish our Tennessee Main Street accreditation and our National Main Street accreditation, and part of this annual report was a requirement of that, and that opens us up for state resources and grant opportunities, which I'll mention in a minute as well. Part of the annual report requires that we track reinvestment statistics, and this was in your packet. Is this gonna? I just
Turn that on. Stan, can you open it? There we go.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So this is just to kind of recap some of those reinvestment statistics, and we highlighted them here. We were excited to see in 2022 15 new businesses, which brought about 38 new jobs for these small businesses. That might not account for everything, but it's what we know about. There's been reported, based on permits pulled, over $6 million in private investment, and we're going to see more of that come in 2023. 36 total building rehab projects, 6 new housing or new construction projects, and then the volunteer hours, I only see that rising with JDDC's board and others that are partnering with us. And then you can see that the ground floor vacancy rate that we have to report is 2.87%. I wish I had something to compare that to in the past years, but it has been since like 2017 since an annual report was done, and so not a lot of information to go from, but we see that ground floor vacancy rate is only going to go down, and there's exciting things coming for downtown, and so I just wanted to highlight that. Okay, and then a few other things to note is just kind of what we focused on the front end was promotion of downtown, what's currently here. With the website launch, social media, newsletter, we continued the to support businesses downtown through those promotions, as well as monthly roundtables that the city initially started, and so we appreciate that partnership. Management of the local, as well as other entrepreneurial resources that we utilize from the CO. Speaking of that structure, I think that kind of reestablishing JDC's board and falling as a program of the CO has just proven to be a really successful partnership. And we're hopeful that our ongoing partnerships with city, chamber, and other organizations will continue to be rebuilt and back to a trusted relationship. We have spent a lot of time focusing on diversifying our funding through grants, sponsorships, and kind of reestablishing ourselves as a gateway to the RFC funds, just to kind of, diversify it and give us a little more balanced approach to our funding. We will continue to collaborate and promote and advocate for the resources to enhance events downtown, but we'll focus on economic development-driven programming like our Holiday Passport program we did at the end of this year. We'll continue to work with the Jackson Arts Council and the Public Arts Commission to develop downtown as the newly designated arts district, which we're excited about. And looking forward to in 2023, we did receive a downtown improvement grant from the Tennessee ECD Main Street. About $90,000 will be allocated for facade improvements, and we'll start kind of on the Main Street block, and that will take place in the next few weeks. We'll start that process. We are excited to be at the table for planning processes for downtown and future design guidelines this year, and we have already seen 2 new businesses come downtown, and we have several more online to come this year, as well as residential spaces, and so it's just exciting growth for downtown, and we're grateful to be at the table for new development and support existing and ensure that our core is healthy for our city. So, do y'all have any questions about JDC or any of the things that I sent in your packet?
Any questions from council for Beth Ann?
I want to ask you about your diversity. You mentioned that at number 2. There's a commitment to diverse, inclusive, and equitable engagement. And then you said there's a commitment to keep a full-time staff that actively participates. Now, how diverse is your board and how diverse is your staff?
Well, I'm the only staff currently for JDDC. I'm the full-time director. And then, like I said, we're a program of the CO. My board is here. And this is, largely we have the CO staff as part of our board to help with that programming. And we have women represented, minorities represented, but we definitely could do, especially moving forward, especially looking at our other councils and committees, being sure that that is something we value and put at the forefront to make sure that we are representing
And
all folks.
Your staff, how many more employees you plan on hiring on the staff?
Right now, we're not hiring anyone else on staff until we're at a financial place to do that. As a program of the CO, we utilize their marketing team and their leadership, and so we have that infrastructure in place, and right now we're okay. And as we grow and as downtown grows, we hope that we could expand JDDC. At one point, there was an admin for JDDC, so there's really only, to my knowledge, been 2 folks on staff, an admin and then the director. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments for Beth Ann?
Beth Ann, I'd just like to thank you for the hard work you've done in getting us JDDC back up and running. I know it hadn't been an easy task, but I do want to appreciate your effort and you taking this challenge head on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, move on to first reading. And item 1 is proposed changes to Title 14, Chapter 5, Erosion and Storm Control. And Ms. Teresa Luna to go through probably the first 3 of them, what we'll have her up here for.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
This month's changes suggested by the Code Committee are all to Title 14, and they are all basically to clean up and get our code in line with what the state law allows us to do, and some practical applications of how we, the city engineer's office, works with TDEC. So the first one is in Title 14, 5073. And this one is, it looks pretty benign, but it's actually a pretty big change. The current code has us having a $50 a day fine, per day fine, up to that amount. This one changes it to between $50 and $5,000 per day. That's a pretty big change, but let me explain how that should work practically. The $50 a day fine, if we do that with the municipal court, with Judge Anderson's court, city court, that's all we can get through the city court. If we want to get a bigger fine than $50 a day, we have to carry it to Chancery Court. So we are just bringing this in line with the state law.
All right, any questions from council? This is an item on first reading, so I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to can be recognized at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second? And a second. Any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, item 2 is proposed changes to Title 14, Chapter 6, discharges into storm sewer system.
The first change, if you'll see at the top of the page, is in 14603, and it's basically, one of the changes was just to add the TDEC reference. It says the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, but the city engineer's office asked us to add that because TDEC is often the reference for that. The other two changes in 603, as you see, was to change the violation will be required to may be required, and the other change in that section was from the city engineer to TDEC. Again, that's just, it's practically what's happening, it's what's in the state code, and we're just bringing our city code in line with that. The other change, and it's not in red, well, yes it is, it's down here at the bottom, is exactly the same change that I just went over with you a minute ago. It's another way that the city can get fines for stormwater violations, and it's between $50 and $5,000 per day. And again, only in municipal court, up to $50 a day. Anything bigger than that, we go to Chancery Court and get the judgment.
All right. Any questions from council regarding those changes? This is an item on first reading, so I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to can be recognized at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, item 3 is proposed changes to Title 14, Chapter 7, Environmental Advisory Appeals Board.
Council, this change is a local change simply because Jackson and Madison County used to have an intergovernmental agreement for an environmental advisory and appeals board, and now the county has their own and it's functioning, and the city has its own. So the code committee is suggesting that we remove 14703 from the code simply because it's not applicable anymore.
Any questions from council? This is an item on first reading, so I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to can be recognized at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I so moved.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, thank you, Ms. Luna. Item 4, proposed budget amendments for the Civic Center in the amount of $300,000.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In our approved FY '23 original budget for this year, there was included $300,000 in the general fund operating expense for the Civic Center. This was to lease some upgraded sound equipment. It's been determined that the better path forward for the city is to actually purchase that equipment and own that equipment. It'd be an asset of the city. So what this amendment does simply transfers the $300,000 that was in the general fund for that over to the capital outlay fund.
All right, any questions from council?
Yeah, why is it better to buy it than lease it?
Tosh, you want to come up here?
The lease was over $400,000 a year, and it was a 5-year lease, so you're looking at $2.1 million to lease somebody else's stuff. We can buy it for right around 200, and then we can rent it out, and it becomes revenue for us.
Enough said, that's a very good answer.
And that's for the same equipment, is that?
It is, it's actually, in our opinion, it's a little better equipment.
All right, any additional questions from council?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do you mind just kind of going over and listing what those improvements are?
Yeah, so with the sound, when somebody asks for a tech package, they want what we have. We have nothing. So we say, what tech package? And we always outsource all of that stuff. Now we will actually have a tech package to present to people and say, hey, this is what we've got. Hopefully you don't have to bring a bunch of stuff in. Hopefully this allows us to have bigger shows, better shows, bigger artists, and they don't have to cart all of their stuff in. If they can do what we call a one-off, they come in the same day, they leave the same night. It's line array, it's JBL line array systems. So it's what the symphony normally uses for their events, so that now they don't have to cart any of that stuff in. The symphony will be able to come in and basically plug and play and do their shows. And this will allow for much more than the symphony.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, any additional questions?
Yes, sir. And Mr. New, this has something about outdoor lighting as well. Will you be able to make that upgrade?
Yes, it's already underway.
Okay, fantastic.
All right, any other questions from council? This is an item on first reading, so I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to can be recognized. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion, a couple seconds. Any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5 is proposed budget amendment, Recreation and Parks, in the amount of $20,000.
This proposed amendment would simply reallocate within the Parks and Recreation Department capital budget $20,000, which was part of a bigger project at the park in South Jackson. Reallocate that to Conger Park for an upgrade to the restroom facilities at Conger Park.
All right, any questions from council? This is an item on first reading, so I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to can be recognized at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 6, proposed budget amendment for Jackson Fire Department, the amount of $450,077.45.
The City of Jackson Fire Department's been fortunate enough to be awarded an American Firefighter Grant for $450,077. These funds will be used to pay for or fund EMT and paramedic training for our firefighters. So this amendment would just recognize the proceeds and related expense associated with that grant. The council should know there is a 10% match on this grant. I think it's item 9, I believe, over in new business is an ARPA budget amendment to recognize that 10% match. It's already budgeted in a particular line item. We'll reallocate that so that we can account for it separately. So.
All right, any questions from council? This is an item on first reading, so I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to can be recognized at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, is there a second? And a second. Councilman Dodd, any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, item 7 is proposed budget amendment for Jackson Police Department, the amount of $47,776.
Again, the city has been fortunate in recent years to be awarded the initials, the JAG grant. I'm not sure exactly what that acronym is for. I think it's a Department of Justice grant of some type. The total grant is $47,776. The way that it's administered is half of that goes to the city, and half of that the city passes through to the Madison County Sheriff's Department. There's no match on this grant. So.
All right, any questions from council? This is an item on first reading, so I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to can be recognized at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, move on to second reading. Thanks, Rodney. Item 1 is proposed budget amendment for recovery court in the amount of $7,000.
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 2 is proposed budget amendment for Bicentennial Park in the amount of $140,000.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, refresh me on that, please.
That was what the city committed to for the grading and the retaining wall for the monument in
Got it.
Bicentennial Park.
Okay, thank you.
Have a motion and a second. Right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 3 is proposed budget amendment for LRK Jackson Plaza in the amount of $122,800. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second? And a second from Councilman Dodd. Any further discussion?
Question.
Uh-huh.
Do we have that in writing about how that was going to be limited in the scope?
Yes, it's in the contract that you have in new business.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 7-1 abstain.
Item 4 is consideration of an ordinance to rezone 2 areas of property located near 1300 block of Old Humboldt Road from RS Single Family Residential District to RS1 Single Family Residential District, Area 1 comprising of 3.3 acres more or less, and Area 2 comprising of 1.96 acres more or less.
So moved.
Have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 5 is consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located east of Chickasaw Drive from RS1 Single Family Residential District to RS1 PRD Single Family Residential Planned Residential Development District comprising of 42.28 acres more or less.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 6, consideration of a resolution to adopt a plan of service, an ordinance to annex, and the proposed zoning of property for an area referred to as Stover, submitted by Andy Stover, comprising of 8.2 acres more or less, located at 4305 US Highway 45 North. Proposed zoning is B5 Highway Business District.
So moved.
Have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 7 is consideration of an ordinance to close an unnamed alley, ID 87B24, between Short Street and York Street.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 8 is consideration of an ordinance to abandon 15 by 145 section of the west side of Canalco Drive, just south of Lawrence Switch Road.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 9 is consideration to amend Title II, Chapter 1, Parks and Recreation Board.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 10 is consideration to amend Title II, Chapter 2, Keep Jackson Beautiful Commission.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 11 is consideration to amend Title II, Chapter 4, Jackson Transit Authority.
So moved.
You have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I got some discussion on that one.
Okay.
Refresh my memory on that, please, Ms. Luna, or would you? Attorney Luna, I'm sorry.
Councilman, your question was about the JTA?
Mm-hmm.
The only change that the code committee suggested was regarding the city pension plan. There was an outdated provision in our code saying that the employees of JTA could participate in the city pension plan. We no longer have a city pension plan, so we deleted that because all city employees, JTA included, are involved in the TCRS state plan.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Item 12 is consideration to amend Title II, Chapter 8, Budget Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Question as we approach Budget Committee and Audit Committee here, are we intending on appointing an Audit Committee immediately, or will we want the Budget Committee to continue the Audit Committee functions through the end of this year?
I think we would have the audit committee, the functions at the end of the year, and then July 1, start the new audit
Okay,
committee.
I just wanted to
I
make
think that
that-
makes it easier and cleaner to do that and
I
try to
wanted to
start in
make
the
that
middle of it.
clear, and maybe I'll offer that as a condition on the next item.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we can do that. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, item 13 is consideration to amend Title II, Chapter 9 of the Audit Committee. You gonna make that motion?
I make a motion to amend this to begin July 1, to have members appointed by July 1, so that they can begin their duties then.
All right, there's a motion with an amendment.
Second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, get on to new business.
Oh, I think we need to vote.
Vote
That
on
was
it.
the amendment.
Okay, sorry, yeah, you're right. All right, so we have the amendment passed. Now we're gonna vote on the consideration to amend Title II, Chapter 9 as amended. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Thank you, Councilman. Go on to new business. Item 1 is consideration of John Eskew from MTAS to perform the city court study. Just let you wanna give us an update on that.
Council, last month, you tasked me with finding a person or a group who could perform the study that the Code Committee recommended concerning the city court and the city court clerk's office. And that was undertaken this past month. We've been in contact with the Administrative Office of the Courts, TAMCAR, which is the Association for City Clerks, also with UT, MTAS, and one person was recommended by every single group. And that gentleman's name is John Eskew, and he's with MTAS, and his sole job with MTAS is to work with city court clerks' offices. When I spoke with him by phone, he was extremely knowledgeable of court clerks' offices across the state, particularly ours, because we have both, civil jurisdiction and concurrent general sessions jurisdiction in our court. So John Eskew was familiar with that. He came and met with the judge and with the clerk and with the clerk's staff and me, and had a very lengthy meeting, answered a lot of questions, explained a lot of things that he thought would be beneficial in the study. He understands the scope of the study that we've recommended, the Code Committee's recommended. Basically, the wording from the Code Committee was meant to cover anything and everything that goes on at the city court clerk's office and at city court. So he is ready to go for a study if the council so approves.
Is there a motion from council?
So moved.
A motion-
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, I have some questions about it. This morning, I received, I guess all council members received it, a letter from Judge Anderson and from the clerk, Mr. Hubbard. And what did I say?
It's like it from Mr. Hubbard. It's from both of them.
Yeah, I got two. One from Anderson, one from Judge Anderson, one from Mr. Hubbard. And both of them recommend the appointment of this gentleman, said he's a very nice guy to do it, and he's comfortable to do it, and all those kinds of things. And also the letters point out the burden that city court is under with all the cases that they have to hear, and all of those things, and the staffing has not been as good as it could be. In Mr. Hubbard's letter, however, he goes further and says something to the effect that he's in favor of the appointment, but that he does not want it to be accompanied by a political takeover of his office. And he goes further and says somewhere that that there's been somebody appointed, and from his letter it appears that he's saying that the person who's been appointed at city court now is a manager, and he is over Mr. Hubbard, is the way it appears in the letter. So you know anything about that?
I don't. I haven't seen Mr. Hubbard's letter, but our recommendation from the Code Committee was voted on back in November, and when we began working on trying to revamp the code to see what needed changes, we felt like we couldn't even revamp the code because we were hearing that they were so short-staffed, that they had more cases than they could handle with the staff that they had, that their technology was not up to date. We began hearing those types of things, so that's why we recommended the study. But you know, our role in this is simply to recommend that a study be done, and then again, last month you appointed me to find the person who is most appropriate for it. So I think that when John Eskew comes in and does the study, he could certainly make recommendations as to what Mr. Hubbard is mentioning in his letter, although I haven't seen his letter.
Okay, so what you're doing is independent of what Mr. Hubbard is saying.
Exactly, has nothing to do with it. The only connection could possibly be that when Mr. Eskew does his study, he may recommend a different structure there to the council.
All right. I noticed Mr. Hubbard was here earlier. I don't know. I'd like to hear from Mr. Hubbard on this aspect of it. What do you mean about a political takeover of your office?
Well,
You
the
don't want
city
that to be
or
a company?
somebody has appointed a lady that's basically came in and said that she's now running the office.
She's what?
Running the office, that she's in charge and she's making the decisions. And I want to be clear.
Making what kind of decisions?
She said she was going to change the culture of the office, and there's gonna be some changes in the office. And somebody told her that my employees now work for her. And that's
So
how-
is she your boss? Is it he or she?
It's a she. I don't think she's my direct supervisor, but if she's supervising my staff, then I'm left just holding the bag. The thing is, this lady she knows the technological side of how to work with the computers and stuff. And she's really a good hire, but she's in the wrong place and she's got the wrong position. The job she's doing, she could do from City Hall, and I can have a real employee there. She's technically doing no court work. She's just kind of emailing, and she's doing some good things as far as trying to get things in order. But I really could use an employee and not a supervisor. I have an office manager. She was placed over her. I didn't interview her. I really didn't know much about it, and I feel like that was something that should have been discussed with me at length about what her role was going to be and what they were planning to do with her. This case, she does not have to necessarily do the job from city court. She could do it from City Hall. What I'm saying is that we need an employee. I don't need another supervisor. I have a qualified individual. This young lady that they hired has no experience in court work. She has no idea what court work is like. She's very talented, very good, and what she's doing, we appreciate, but at city court, she's not in the correct place. She could work from City Hall and do the same thing she's doing in city court, and we could hire an employee to help us manage the workload. She's actually created more work for my employees because she's sending out emails, and they have to respond to emails or they get in trouble. And it's just, I don't feel comfortable with her in my office because I don't even know who she works for. I don't even know who she reports to.
In regard to the appointment of the, Mr., what's his name? Eskew? Judge Anderson has said, and you've said in your letter too, that you welcome that.
Yes.
That's the case?
I mean, I met with him, Ms. Luna met with him. He's a great guy, and I think he's not gonna charge the city any money. He's just gonna do the study. And I appreciate the study because I want somebody to understand the workload we have and how much we have to do. And I'm telling you, as the court clerk, I had at least 3 courts. So some of the stuff Ms. Merriweather is doing, I didn't have time to do.
Now, who is Ms. Merriweather?
She's the one that's allegedly over city court at this point.
Talking about.
Yes, and I mean, she's good, and I wouldn't say get rid of her because she's doing a good job, but I really don't need her at city court.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right. Item 2 is consideration of a contract for North Parkway Multimodal Phase 1. Stan?
Good morning.
Good morning.
This has been a project that's been long coming. We started this path a while ago. And so now we're to the contract phase of it, and we are glad we are now going to be letting that contract and see this go forward. So this is a state project. that money comes from the state. And this will be for the crosswalks and sidewalk improvements and connectivity improvements from the health department to the shopping center area, and also serves apartments that are in the area. It's a safety project. It does provide more safety for pedestrians trying to cross a busy intersection, whichever one. If you've traveled North Highland Parkway, you know it's a very busy intersection. So we're excited to have this project going forward. This is a project that's funded majority by the state.
Any question from council?
What's that distribution between state and local funds?
It's 95.5.
95.5. Are we presently budgeted?
Yes, that's budgeted in the $1 million we have for pedestrian infrastructure.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
Thank you.
Item 3 is consideration for supplement number 2 for design services for the US 45 bypass southern extension project.
Want me to talk about that?
Oh, yeah.
All right. This is a project that has been underway for a long time. We received an original earmark that provided about $4 million for this project, and we've used that money to locally manage the environmental phase of this project and also the design phase. So once we leave this phase and move into right-of-way, then TDOT takes over the project at that point and carries the project forward. So this is a supplement. There were some additional requirements that TDOT asked to the design work, and this supplement will cover that. It's still within the original money that we had earmarked for the project.
All right, any questions from council? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, item 4 is consideration of the contract with LRK for the Jackson Plaza redevelopment vision.
Morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
In your packet, you have the contract with LRK for the Jackson Plaza redevelopment. We did reach out to Victor with LRK, and we are correct. The city will not be required to pay the future task until we authorize them to proceed, which each requested task.
Is that what we were talking about when we wanted to get it in writing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
For some clarity on that, I think, at least from my perspective, was that the council would approve each subsequent task. Is that the way that that's understood? Or is this like kind of a blanket, as we move through this, then it's authorizing the administration to
Now,
see?
we will bring it before council for every
Yes,
task.
because we've only budgeted the first task, so they'll have to come back for
Even though
additional
the
budget.
budgeted amount's gonna be in FY '24, we'll still bring it every task to move to the next phase we brought to council.
Okay. Well, that was a question, because the numbers keep moving, and I understand that, we had an allowance for the market analysis economic report, and that came substantially more. We've dealt with that, but now we have some additional consulting fees that are added in there. I'm curious where those came from.
That was the additional master planning that they were going to do on the larger area, and that again, to look at the Old Hurricane Mall area and do some analysis of that in terms of businesses that could be attracted and potential for other development in the area. Again, that task is a future task that you can authorize or not authorize.
Well, that's when I see task one's changed by $5,500.
LRK did ask to include a program manager service, which, as you see in there, is Infinite Consulting with Ms. Tina Mercer.
Okay. But we haven't budgeted for that. Because we had budgeted for the 15,000 and the 107,800, but
Yes.
not the additional program manager services.
I do see the 122,800, so yeah, we'll have to get with.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
it's moved. It's moved every time we've met, the numbers moved, and so I'm just trying to nail it down. we're approving what needs to be approved in the future. Because we could budget, technically, we could budget out the remainder of this in next year's budget, and then it could just move forward. What I'm asking is there needs to be kind of the council needs to be on board as we move towards this. It's a substantial potential project.
I think we need, if it's not clear in the contract, we need to make the contract that the council approves the task beyond task one, and then we can be able to budget for that, and then we'll have to do a budget amendment for the additional 5,500. But once the contract is signed and final, then the dollar amounts won't move anymore.
Yeah, so we're locking them in for future expense costs. I understand that.
Yeah.
But what I was looking for is, can the council approve those tasks as we go along?
I think they can probably be made in a motion for the contract that the council approved the task.
Yeah,
That way we can codify that.
okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Uh-huh.
Mr. Taylor, is your question about the 5,500
Yeah.
right now? That's your
Well,
question?
I have two questions. One is about the addition of the consulting fees after we had approved. One agreement had been in our packet as we approved the budget amendment. Then we have an additional consulting fee that's added on top, and we haven't budgeted for that. And then my second question is, can the council approve task by task as we go down this path?
So my understanding is the second one's been answered, but the first one?
No, neither have been answered.
Okay.
Yeah, so we could, what the mayor said is we could amend this or condition this that the council approve task by task. So we could deal with that one, but I think we'll have to go back to a budget amendment for the 5,500. Okay.
The contract would give you authority to choose items from the menu and sequentially.
Yeah, the way the tasks are laid out. Yeah.
Right. If we want to have each item on the menu approved by council separately and sequentially, then we need to change what this is authorization. And the contract has a suspension and termination clauses, which gives a lot of flexibility. That's what I thought you were asking. But if we want to have every item brought back to council each step of the way, that's not what this contract is saying. This contract says it's given to you, and then you take the step, and the budget constraints constrain you from taking the next step. So it's sort of two separate paths, the authorization and the financing. So I want to make sure that what I'm hearing and what they're hearing is understood so that we can implement it according to your wishes.
Mayor, can I make a motion that we table this issue until we get more information?
Yep, there's a motion to table.
Second.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 6-2.
Okay. Item 5 is consideration of a contract with Bose Landscaping for Riverside Cemetery.
So bids were received for Riverside Cemetery lawn care. This includes mowing, weed eating of the entire cemetery. We sent this out to 17 vendors. We received one bid. It is recommendation of groundskeeping and purchasing to award this bid to Bose Landscaping. This bid comes in at a cost of $1,750 a month. This will be twice a month, April through September as needed. And this will be,
The term of that is how long?
this will be a one-year agreement, and the city will have the right for one-year options to renew.
Thank you.
All right, any additional questions?
We feel confident in their ability to take care.
Yes,
Okay.
they stepped in.
They're the ones that stepped in.
Yes.
They're the ones that stepped in and
That's
helped us.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Bo and them did a great job. They stepped in, helped us out, and they've grown their resources, so they'll be able to manage the cemetery.
Okay. Move to approve.
There's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, item 6, consideration of a contract with TLM Henson Construction for the Senior Activity Center.
So proposals were taken for the Senior Activity Center. This proposal was for design, build, and construction. In your packets, you will see the proposed floor plan that was selected. 2 proposals were received. An evaluation team comprised of Councilman Johnny Dodd, Ms. Virginia Conger over to my left, Christy David, Allison Fight in purchasing. It is recommendation of the evaluation team to award this proposal to TLM and Henson Construction. The CM and design fee was both 6%, and we do have representatives from TLM and Henson Construction here if there's any questions.
All right, any questions from council?
Just a comment, let the people know what the amount of the contract is.
Yeah, the total amount budgeted for design construction was 2.5 million.
That's correct.
I believe the contract has a do not exceed of
Yes.
2.5.
It does. I
Yes.
was going to find that out, but that is correct.
All right, any additional questions?
Move to approve.
Got a motion is second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right.
Still one question about, where is it gonna be located? Where's it
Right next
located?
to the tennis center in Westwood Gardens. Y'all gotten 2 round of applause in the last 2 months. I don't know, that's unheard of. Item 7 is consideration of the contract with Wold MSB for JTA Transfer Center renovations.
So we took proposals for the renovations and improvements of the JTA Transfer Center. This was design build as well for the renovation of the facility. We sent this out to 28 vendors. We received 1 proposal. Is recommendation of JTA and purchasing to award this proposal to Wold MSB as the best proposal. This proposal was received with a design fee of $68,000, and the fee costs are broken down in your packet. We also have representatives here of JTA if there's any questions about JTA.
Any question from council? Is there a motion?
Also,
Second.
Have a motion is second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 7-1 abstain.
Item 8 is consideration of a contract with personnel placements for a staffing recruitment agency.
We took proposals for a temporary staffing service. This includes temporary staff support provided by an agency to meet city needs for either short or long-term assignments. Sent this out to 10 vendors. We received 6 proposals. Evaluation team comprised of Councilman Sam Turner, Ms. Lynn Henning, Christy David, J.D. Sims in purchasing. We recommend it is recommendation of the evaluation team to award this to personnel placements as the best proposal. The fee for this service is a 43% markup of the employee wage, and this will be a 1-year agreement, and the city will have the right to 4 1-year options to renew.
All right, any questions from council?
explain to me what you were saying about the 43% markup. I don't understand.
So whatever the wage is, they'll put a 43% markup on that wage, and that will be their fee for their services. And there's actually one of the packets, piece of paper in your packet shows that breakdown cost. So whatever the fee is, they'll put the 43% on there, and that'll be the fee for the services.
Is 43 standard in that industry, to your knowledge?
That's around what the standard is, around that 30% to 43.
Thank you.
All right, any additional questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 7-1 abstain.
All right, item 9 is consideration of a contract with Doc's Landscaping for downtown landscaping.
So we took bids for downtown landscaping services. This is for the downtown landscaping maintenance to be administered twice a year in the spring and the fall. We sent this out to 14 vendors. We received 1 bid. It's a recommendation of groundskeeping and purchasing to award this bid to Doc's Landscaping. This bid was received at a cost of $27,120. And like the previous ones, this will be a 1-year agreement, and the city will have the right to 4 1-year options to renew.
All right, any question from council? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 6-2 abstain.
Item 10, proposed budget amendment, American Rescue Plan for Jackson Fire Department, the amount of $45,007.75.
This amendment would, as I mentioned earlier, the American Firefighter Grant, there is a 10% match. That's what this budget amendment would fund. just as a point of clarification and note, that these funds are already budgeted in the ARPA fund, part of a larger budget line item of $721,810 that the council previously approved for the training and equipment of firefighters as EMTs and paramedics. As we mentioned earlier, we were fortunate enough to get the grant that you approved earlier. That grant will address the training side. Part of this line item, as I mentioned, will go toward the local match, the local 10% match for the grant. The balance of what was originally approved for this particular line item, which was $721,810, some of that will have to go toward the required equipment outside of the training, right? And then the mayor's office and the council will work together and consider the use of the balance of those funds that were budgeted in this ARPA line, so.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
All right, item 11 is budget amendments less than 10,000. Item 12 is consideration of invoices over 10,000.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0.
No further business.
Well, Mayor, let me ask a question. What is, this it has nothing to do with the city business. I'm just curious as a citizen. What is being built there at the block of Highland, Shannon, and Lafayette?
Starbucks.
Starbucks, okay. The public didn't know that. I didn't know it. That's a good deal. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, all right, no further business. Meeting is adjourned.